double check. Last time we were delayed, if I remember.
It is delayed.
So
there we are. I see us.
Not up on my end yet, but I'm sure it'll start in just a second. That's what happened last time. All right, so it looks like we have a slim group tonight. Not everybody's here, but that's okay.
Can you hear me?
I mean, here I can hear you.
Okay. I can see us on the screen, Julia. So I don't know if you have the right link for the right night.
I do. Now it's thinking it'll probably restart it. That's fine. Okay. All right. So Catherine, do you want to share the slides with us for this evening?
Hold on. I'm just going to share content. Hold on one second. Share.
Everybody okay to get started?
Share. And we are sharing my screen and we will go to the slides. Okay. Can you guys see them?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We can indeed.
Perfect.
Okay, so during today's conversation, we're going to, of course, start our meeting with our land acknowledgement. Then we'll move into any updates we've heard from Sustainable CT. This is where we'll turn it over to Catherine. Then we're going to talk through our next steps. Really, after our conversation with Matt, it became pretty clear to me and a few of us how we might be able to wrap this thing up and get ready for the next chapter. And we're going to walk through our recommendation on how to do that. And then we're going to hopefully break out into actual sub teams this time. And we'll do that roundtable thing where everyone can share whatever is on their mind. And then we'll talk through next steps and then we'll close. Does that feel aligned with what your expectations are for this week?
Yes, and just as a side note, I am taking notes this evening because Ed is delayed getting here. He will be here, but he is delayed getting here with a soccer carpool, and that's that.
Super. Kim, we sent out, we haven't sent this link out, but it's not a secret link and we can certainly send it out to you. So hold on one second. Let me add it in the drive so everybody has access to it. Apologies on that. The goal is, again, not a secret. You don't have to worry about having everything lined up, but so just give me 1 second. I will pull that up and send you the link. Of course, my computer is taking a minute to think about things. Heaven forbid it does what we want in quick order. All right, here we go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Were you referring to the chat? That was a message for someone in a private message. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was.
Were you confused? Like, what's she talking about?
Well, no. I mean, you have every right to see the presentation. I didn't know what plan you were talking about. Yeah. No. Okay. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, so sorry about that. I'm not. Yeah, no, it was about something else. No, I'm with you. I did not need. I'm in due time. This is good timing. You don't need to send me an advance copy. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Well, I'm already halfway down on the list, so I'm gonna change to everyone with the link. Copy the link. I've got it in here. You guys will have it in just a second. Here is the deck we are talking about tonight. So, all right, solid. Okay, so we are going to start with the land acknowledgement. Kim, did you want to do the land acknowledgement again, or do you want me to do it? Do you want someone else to do it? What would you like to do? You have now suddenly on mute, and I don't know why.
Here, I'm sorry. I was muted. I would love for someone else to take, just try it out and just a reminder that a land acknowledgement, it's, something that our group is exploring and doing, and it's like a note of intention and, a way that we can kind of decolonize these gatherings, which is so important, especially given the theme. And even if we're in virtual space, we're still on the land of, someone else's home.
Do you want to keep going,
So
or do you
go
want to
ahead,
have
go
someone
ahead.
else
You do
want
it.
to volunteer and take over? Kim, would you mind putting the name of the tribes in the chat so we can make sure to acknowledge them? I apologize, I don't have that memorized. I can only see 4 faces at a time, and I think it would be so fantastic if someone else wanted to take over the land acknowledgement. Does anyone else feel confident to do that? I'm flipping through to see faces. Shout out if you want to do it. Seeing any volunteers? Seeing a lot of cameras off. Did somebody say they want to do it?
Kim, this is Rachel. If you'll do it one more time, I promise I will do it next time, but I just want to hear you do it again so that I can kind of understand the feel of it, please.
Kim, you're back on mute. Thank you. Thank you for volunteering, Rachel.
Sorry, I'm tonight is my mute night. I keep forgetting to unmute. Thank you, Rachel. And I can send, I send a lot of times like a few links that were very helpful to me and really understanding the land acknowledgement and what it means. And so I would love to send that to everyone if I remember. I'm going to write that down right now. So I will maybe I'll send it to Julia and Catherine. But just quickly, a land acknowledgement, it's just a recognition. It's like a moment to be mindful before we start a meeting. It's fluid, it's changing. That's why it could be different every time we give start a meeting. And there's a line from the Yukon land acknowledgement that says describes their work. It's like a formal statement that recognizes and respects Native peoples as the traditional stewards of the land. So, okay. So, good evening, everyone. Please join me in acknowledging the Sakyog, Tunxis, Wangunk, and perhaps other Algonquian-speaking Indigenous peoples as the original stewards of this land. And of course, by land, I mean land, water, air, living, all living, non-human living things. Their deep and lasting knowledge of the natural world offers us, the Sustainability Advisory Group, a model of sustainability today, for today and for generations, for future generations of West Hartford and more.
That was lovely. Thank you. And also just a shout out that yesterday was Indigenous Peoples Day here in West Hartford. And thank you to those who have really tried to put some thought and forward thinking about celebrating those cultures that have been here before us. Thank you very much, Kim. Okay. Catherine, we're going to turn it over to you for the Sustainable CT news and updates. And you're on mute. Can I take one quick pause? Is anyone taking notes?
Yes, I said I was taking notes because Ed is delayed driving his daughter to soccer, so I am taking notes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Apologies to interrupt you then, Catherine. So
that's fine. So again, just I'm trying to keep us up to speed on Sustainable Connecticut because that was part of this group's charter. There is no news on certification status yet. I just wanted to remind you guys that if you're interested, you can go to their website and we provided the links for you to sign up for their newsletter and or anything on their trainings and events calendars. I know I sent something to Rachel that she was going to sign up for on homelessness, and I've shot other people some things, and I try and send out a bunch of trainings to internal staffs as well because they have a bunch of interesting things on their events calendar. One thing I did want to let you guys know because I think it's pretty cool and some of you might be interested. There are some new reports out from Data Haven, Connecticut Town Equity Reports. I provided the link to West Hartford's, but you'll see on the right-hand side, there are a bunch of kind of cool charts and graphs. This is a 34-page report on demographics and other kind of equity-related statistics. And this coming Friday at Sustainable Connecticut's coffee hour, which is at 10 o'clock on Friday, and you can sign up on their website. Data Haven's going to be doing a presentation, I think, on these reports and some of the other data initiatives that they have going on. So that should be pretty cool. And then just something else you guys might want to take a viewing of is CPTV showcased some Sustainable Connecticut grantees in a film they just did, and one of the segments mentioned West Hartford and the Connecticut murals projects that were done. The MLK mural on the Noah Webster Library was mentioned in that CPTV film. So that's all I have.
Super. Does anyone have any questions for Catherine? And again, if you have questions, unfortunately, due to the web format, I'm trying to see faces, but not everyone has their camera on. So please just unmute yourself and shout out or do a reaction or something.
Okay.
All right. Wonderful. Okay, so next.
Oops, didn't mean to do that.
Okay, don't worry about it. We're just the next tab over. Did you want to show something here?
No.
Okay, no problem. All right, so next slide, please, Catherine.
Hold on, I'm trying to get the next slide. There we go.
All right, so after last time we met, we did have a conversation that some of us would take offline, the feedback that we received about the mission and the vision and what we heard from Matt. And so there were 5 of us that got together the other day: Mary, Rachel, myself, Dan, and am I making it up? Was it Jay? Jay, and Preeti was unable to make it, but has been involved in the back and forth emails that we've been doing. So thank you to all of you guys for participating in that chat. During this next section, if any of you guys want to jump in with observations from the conversation that we had, by all means, this doesn't have to be about me. But what we did was we had a chat about a very enlightening discussion about how we're going to wrap this up, because I thought we talked a little bit about our takeaways from what Matt presented to us, and also what a path forward might look like. I think we've been getting a little bogged down in solving some problems that might be intended for actually the next iteration of whatever this organization turns into, whether it's a commission or a standing body or some sort of situation like that. And so, Catherine, if you can go to the next slide. We kind of want to just get us back on track and really figure out what have we done so far. So this charter was originally asked for like a 10-month commitment, and it was initially just to get our arms around some of the initial gaps. Oh, we're going a little too far. So just to recap, what we were asked to do was to help Catherine with submitting into Sustainable CT. We did that. We were waiting on the results. And then we also spent our time while we were exploring that, learning a little bit about what the town has done in order to meet those Sustainable CT goals. So we started to get ourselves really familiar with what the town was up to. We also had some exercises where we sent the town a letter sharing some of the wishes we have for the vision of West Hartford, what we wanted at the beginning of this conversation before we really started learning about what the town was doing. And then we also spent a activity where we did a deep dive brainstorm live, where we used a mission and visioning exercise to kind of calibrate one another. That was really the purpose of the mission and vision, by the way, guys. It wasn't necessarily that we had to land on the perfect mission or vision, but really to try to make sure that when we were going to all be going through an exercise to figure out what our top 10, or in this case 11, were, that we would all kind of come from the same place, the same idea of what do our fellow towns residents want. And so that calibration effort was really important. And we got to those top 11 priorities. And then we tried to cull them down, but I think a little unsuccessfully. So we've decided we're going to we'll get back to that in just a second, but we got to our 11 priorities. And then in our last meeting, Matt presented also a list of items that were on the town's radar, but he went through a long list of things that are on the radar and not necessarily the things that were budgeted and resourced. And so in a follow-up email, we did ask him to go into greater depth about what has staff, what has budget, and what's really like priority for the town over the next 1 year. Okay, so we tried to really bring it back home. So I had a meeting with him where I said, you know, what you presented to us was really fantastic, but we would really love this other information. So we did send forward to you guys an email that he wrote to Catherine and me, but really to everybody. He addressed it to the whole group. He wanted us to forward it around. Catherine, did we forward that email? I don't remember.
I did not.
Okay, we'll forward it after. I apologize. It has all the details of what Matt wrote in it, and that's what we've laid out on the next 2 slides. So
yeah, I wasn't, and to be honest, I wasn't sure whether he was going to send it because it originally was addressed to this group.
it was addressed to the whole group, right? I think he intended for us to forward it, but we'll have to double check the wording of that. Absolutely. Okay, so on the next slide.
Yep, hold on.
Does anyone disagree before I go any further? I know I'm just kind of jumping in. Does anyone have any disagreeing about what their understanding of what we've done up to this point? We're really just trying to recap where we are. I'm seeing nods. Everyone looks okay. Okay. So we will take a slower walk through these slides because I apologize. I thought that the email was forwarded to you, but Matt highlighted he was really stressing in no particular order, but the Google template labeled things with numbers. And honestly, I just didn't have time to take out the numbers and change it up. So just don't worry. It's not like number 1 is affordable housing. It's just that just know that there are 8 priorities he shared with us. So this is the first 4. Maybe there's only, did I mislabel this? Catherine, can you go to the next slide? Oh, maybe, did you restructure it so they were even?
I moved it.
Beautiful.
Yes, I moved it around.
There's 8. There's a total of 8, 4 and 4 on each slide. So what Matt did was share with us 4 big topics that he feels the town is focused on, and then the exact ways that the town is focused on it was in this highlighted plans section. So, and then I went through, because based on what this paragraph is that he wrote to us, is it aligned with the things that we brainstormed? And I kind of use this loosely. And then is it staffed? Like, is there an actual staff person that he either referenced or told me, oh, that's a staffed thing. We have somebody who's responsible for that at the town. So the goal here is to take a look at what the town's priorities actually are. And then I think our slides got a little out of order because there was another slide that I wanted to jump to. Can you jump ahead to? I'm sorry, Catherine, we'll come back to this in a second. Okay, yes. So I just want to share this with you guys and we'll come back to Matt's slides and really dig on them. So what we decided was we had Matt share the priorities. Now we have that priority list. And what we're going to do going forward between now and basically January is we will take that priority list of what the town has shared and we're going to compare it to the things that we have said are important to us. So we're basically completing what is essentially a gap analysis. We have said these things are important to us. The town has said these are our priorities. And we're going to see where there's overlap, and then we're going to identify where there's potential growth gaps. And we're going to do that in the here's the quick wins short term, and then here's the long term things. And then we're going to make recommendations to the town for how they should close that gap. And in that recommendation, we'll have a further guidance on how to establish a more permanent group of sustainability focused team that'll take on those identified gaps and do those broader action plans and really dig into what is the mission and vision and what is the gaps and like how do we really make these things come to life. So our job here, if you will, is just to kind of paint with a broad brush of here's our initial research about where the gaps are, and a new team has to move forward and take the gaps and actually turn them into a much longer, more detailed report. We'll also make sure that we're going to frame it to align with sustainable CT. And then if you recall, we said that we were going to have our top 11 priorities, but there's a lot of things that we didn't get to that we all acknowledged were extraordinarily important. And those we're going to go into a bike lot. that will be encompassed in either a final slide or a final page that'll say, you know, there's all these other things that are important too, but here are the things that the residents of this town are really going to give you a lot of points for focusing on, because these are the most immediate things that we're feeling like are most important. And we'll present that to the town council, and then we'll get their feedback, and then we will be done. And in that final conversations with the town council, we will ask for permission to continue in a future iteration of what this work group is. Is it a standing commission? Is it a continued advisory group? I don't really know, but we'll actually need to get permission from the town to continue in a more permanent fashion so that it's no longer something that's temporary, that's supposed to sunset by basically January. How do you guys feel about that? Does that feel doable? See a thumbs up from at least one person. Seeing a thumbs up from 2 people. I'm seeing 3 people, 5, 6 people, and okay from Kim. Great. Okay. Does this make you guys feel like this is manageable? We can get through this? Again.
Julia, this is great. Thank you. I think this was a great exercise, just even going through, you know, how did we get here? Let's reset a little bit, which a big group like ours probably needs to do. Thank you. This was great.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. If anyone else wants to chime in, again, it wasn't just me that did this, but other people as well. But thank you.
Thank you for presenting it.
I appreciate that. Okay, anyone else who was on that call want to share anything in addition? Rachel, I think you had some ideas. I don't know if Jay is on the call, but I think Jay had some ideas. So I don't know if you guys want to chime in now to share those thoughts about like what would also be in that plan. Because again, we don't have to boil the ocean here, but we want to make sure we're tapping into some things.
I'll just share 2 quick thoughts, Julia. One was, I personally would love to be allowed to be in the next group. I was hoping when I signed up for this that I would get to do some projects or get to do something besides just the conception of this group. So I'm hoping for that personally. I don't know if other people are, but that's a thought. And then the second thing is that I really feel like, however this progresses to the next phase, it would be so nice if there was a commission or something where every decision that the town agrees on, that after it's agreed on, it gets checked for sustainability in its implementation. So yeah, if they like, sounds like they've approved that big water thing, but I think it was Kathy Sipes, who's a master gardener. She made the point, like, how they're going to do that if they're just going to pour concrete, like we're back to ground zero. So I don't know enough about policy to know exactly what I would recommend, but I feel like that's so important that there is a check on that. Thank you.
I thank you so much for sharing that. Does anyone else have any reactions to what Rachel said or want to share their own thoughts?
Is it appropriate to talk about the idea of the sustainability group now? Is that sort of where we are?
I'm not entirely sure if I know what you mean, but the actual future, we're gonna figure that out later. But if you want to react to what she's saying, I think Rachel, everything that you're saying makes a ton of sense, and I definitely think we should make a recommendation to the town that there's continuity and that the folks on this advisory group get preference to join whatever is next so that we design something that works. And I think that it would also be very, very reasonable for us to try to take some of the suggestions of how to screen projects for sustainability. I know there are some mechanisms, Catherine pointed out, there's already some checklist mechanisms that to require some perspectives to be reviewed by the town. It's as little as adding the recommendation. So that could go into the recommendation. So absolutely, I love that idea. Anyone else want to share? Chris, I don't know if you had more along those lines, but I don't know that we need to get to the details of what that group needs to look like right this second.
No, I'm fine. We can.
Others? And I'm flipping.
This is
Yeah,
Vanessa
maybe,
Borkowski.
Vanessa, and then Johannes. Go ahead.
Okay.
I wanted to echo that I agree with Rachel that I think that it's really great that we were part of this ideation phase, conceptualization, but I'm definitely one of those who likes being a doer. So I agree with her sentiment that it'd be really nice to kind of see this through on a longer term schedule.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Johanna.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'd like to share an observation having listened to Matt at the last month's meeting.
Yep.
I mean, I very much want to see him as a partner. At the same time, listening to him, I got the impression that what he envisions is kind of an engineering solution. And he's got his ducks in a row. And the number one problem is water management. And the one way to get us out of this pickle is to build and to have more reservoirs and maybe do something with impervious
Pavement.
Pavement, but not a whole lot. Don't rock the boat. Don't mess with the status quo. Just build more tanks, and those tanks are large concrete slabs, and
Yeah.
they cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
In other words, all this to say that Matt is a partner until he's not. Until this group needs to push back and maybe look at his view of the world, which is an engineer's view of the world, with some skepticism and
Yeah.
offer some other solutions. So he's a partner until he's not, I think is all I'm saying.
Yes, he is definitely our town manager, and he has ideas that what we heard from Matt, just to be very clear, was really he wasn't quite sure what to present to us, so he went a little overboard. This is something he debriefed with me and Catherine on afterward. He wasn't intending to make it sound like he had figured everything out. He knows that the town is not doing all the things it needs to be doing and is really looking forward to our assistance and our help, which is why when we followed up with him, we asked him for further clarification on, okay, we didn't, need everything under the sun to prove that you know about sustainability. We're trying to help out here.
Right.
So
I was surprised by
yeah.
his presentation because it was really the kitchen sink,
It was the kitchen sink. It was, yes, it really
right?
was. Yep.
And one would have expected a much more focused approach. Well, anyway, I mean, we've talked about this.
Speaking of kitchen sink, I'm gonna move this direction and then I gotta get a little closer to my charger because it's gonna die. So I've got it. I'm in my kitchen. You might see things from my kitchen sink.
Yes, and Johannes, we did, I did, and Julia and I jointly provided him the feedback that your point exactly, that that the SAG is here to help. We want to work together to move the town to the path to sustainability. So I thought he presented too much of a success story. We got this covered. And the point was, no, like, you need to be honest about where the gaps are, what's funded, what's not, because we're your allies to maybe lobby for this stuff with the council and with residents. And so it is a working partnership, as you mentioned. But
right, no, I
understand
couldn't agree more. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't want us to somehow end up rubber stamping something that Matt is very much enthusiastic about, and maybe something that is already in the works and that will be further legitimized by this body, right?
Well, I had a very straightforward conversation with him and I said, listen, you left some people with the impression that you got this all covered and you don't need us, and that is not what we were signed up to do. And we would really like specific guidance because we know that the town hasn't invested in some of the things that you told us that you were thinking of investing in. The thinking of investing in list was really what we were presented, not the actual what has the town done. Not to discount that the town has already done a lot of great work, but this exercise, and I shared with him, this exercise is not to say, what is your wish list? We'll put it in here. That's what's going in the report and what we're telling town council. We are telling you what we as residents have identified are the things we want most.
And so I'm very glad you said that.
is going to need to invest in some things that are frankly just not that front and center in people's minds. And water infrastructure is going to be necessary, and it may not be on the top of every resident's wish list. And if you combine the two, you're going to get a really solid solution, right? You need to do some of the things the residents are looking for, and we really need to make sure we're also investing in the unseen things, like perhaps a deep pipe or a water infrastructure project or something.
Right.
And then to go back to Rachel's point, Kathy's points, we don't want the town just assuming everything should be as it was. We want to make sure that there's additional perspective and a recognition that we have a lot of sustainability experts in this town, and they should lean into our knowledge and our passion and our expertise. So that's just a debrief for all of you guys on the conversation I had with Matt. He took it really well, and he was really like, oh, let me rewrite this email to you guys and clarify what I want.
So I just wanted to say a couple of things along to emphasize something that you said. You know, we do have a lot of brain power in the room here, and a lot of experts. And I think I don't know whether Jay's on, but he made the point too, that that the town should look for assistance from these people. I think in Matt's mind, he was originally thinking that this group would assist with the task that we identified of how do we get other residents on board? How do we do marketing and outreach to get other people, our community, our fellow citizens, to live more sustainable and make more sustainable choices? So using this group as an outreach arm. And I think that's one aspect, but the other aspect is that there's expertise that the town could really benefit from on the projects and the stuff that they are tackling themselves. And they need to recognize, again, just like we said, they don't have all the answers, and there's a lot of value from your guys' expertise, not just in lobbying fellow citizens and acting as an outreach arm.
Yes, but we will need to do that, and that was not voted as our top 11, just so you know, so that's okay. All right,
Well,
so
I just had
two other things, just quickly. So I completely agreed with Rachel and Chris's comments. So I know we're going to cover kind of different priority areas, but I do want to think about above that kind of the structure for a commission or some kind of outreach arm, as well as advisory group to work with town staff. So kind of what the organizational structure looks like. And I also would like us to think about the cross-cutting nature, and yes, I can share some ideas on that, because I've already tried to push that kind of how do we run everything through a sustainability lens and an equity lens, and then the overarching coordination of that kind of cross-cutting thing, whether it happens, where does it happen, in the town manager's office? Does there need to be additional staff? So in addition to the priority areas, I want to think about kind of the coordination.
I think that could be a 12th priority area, to be honest, because we need to make sure that it's something we do consider and somebody works on.
So
okay,
I just wanted to say one thing, and I was going to wait, but I think this is the right time. It's kind of stems from Matt's his presentation, and it's interesting to hear everyone's feedback. I was pretty happy with the information that he shared. I guess I made the assumption that, of course, I mean, thank you for that information, but of course our town has like so far to go to being like a more ecological town. I didn't even imagine that it went through his head that they were, crossing all the T's and dotting the I's. So, but I think what you guys are saying makes sense. Just that part, what I did take away, and I was relieved to hear him suggest, how important education is. And let's not make that small, that marketing, that lobbying arm, that, education piece, because what I see in our town is that we are, and I'm guessing that it's people in this group that are going to be most prepared to offer this, but we need a total frame shift. Like we need a complete, and that's not a small thing. I mean, I've been trying for a long time, and I'm not doing it right. And I put a lot of thought into it, but that's a big deal. If you've ever been to a town that is just in a different place, ecologically speaking, you know what I mean. You're in the town and it feels different. It might be, the constant prompts for, sustainable behavior, throwing things in the correct, bin. It might be, all the groups that are organized for, food distribution and, sharing and, farm fresh produce and or backyard produce. And that's what I think we need. I just don't want us to walk away. To me, it's almost like if we can't get that right, then these 11 groups, these 11 projects that we've highlighted, we can have the best experts in these 11 areas, but until we start to understand how we can get our town, like get everyone past that, I don't know, that threat, that get some momentum going, we need a mindset shift. We need a complete mindset shift. I don't know how to do that. I would love to talk more about that.
I think that's certainly something we can explore as well in this next report. Mary has to leave in a minute, and Dan asked a really great question, so I'm just going to turn over to them real quickly, and we're going to go back to this, and then we're going to split up into these 11 groups, and then we're going to be done for the night. So, Mary, do you want to go, because I know you actually have to leave? And sorry, Dan, I'm letting her skip because she's got to get off the phone soon.
Yeah, so I have a few more minutes, but I think another thing that we had sort of spoken about earlier was really the need to acknowledge that at some point, as much as we all want to continue with a formal town group in the future, that we should also be open to the possibility that the best way to make change in the town may to also create a separate group that is not under the structure of the town, and where we can really push a little bit more aggressively towards our town council and towards our staff in town. And so, I don't want to take up this time now for that, obviously, but I did want to just drop that on everyone's radar. I've certainly been to other sort of activist organizations in the past month or so around the region, and have seen other West Hartford people who seem to have similar feelings. So I think that there's a sort of something in the air where there might be able to not just move forward within the structure of the town, but also move forward outside of the structure of the town. And I think that might be a really great two-pronged approach.
Sounds like a great idea. We would not put that on the report, but we would just do it. And Dan asked a great question. Dan, do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
I think that would be fine to put in the report. I think you should put that in the report.
I don't know. It's better to surprise them. Okay, so Dan asked a great question. Catherine, do you happen to know where Matt Hart is getting his sustainability advice right now?
Getting his advice. I think it depends on what the topic is.
Sustainability advice. That's what Dan asked.
I think it depends on what the topic is. If he had an energy question, he'd probably come to me. If he had a green infrastructure or roadway question, he'd go to the engineering department. It really depends on what the issue is. Hence, I think there needs to be some coordination of that, because it's kind of all
disjointed, yeah,
over the place.
Great.
Yeah, so I mean, to give you a flavor for, there's EVSE charging stations and service equipment for electric vehicles. I'm not really sure who's in charge of that. I get emails, Public Works get emails, parking gets emails, someone will get something about it and forward it to all kinds of people. I don't think there's a coordinated approach to some of these issues yet.
So while we're still on this topic, I did want to go back to those two slides that had Matt's summary on them before we break up into the 11 different groups. Pretty much after this, you guys, we just have a timeline of how we're going to deliver, and then we're going to break up into the groups. But I do want to show you guys. So again, take this with a grain of salt. This is self-reported by Matt, and it's written after one paragraph that he sort of told me how things are staffed. So according to Matt, the top well, 4 of the 8 priorities we have here are affordable housing, clean and renewable energy, the complete streets program, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then under the bullets, you'll see exactly what he meant when he said that. So according to him, we do have a staff person that works in affordable housing. I'm not really sure. I think that's somebody who works in, is it called social work? It's public works or something, family services, something like that, social services. I'm trying to remember the name of the department. Anyway,
Again, I think so.
is it staff?
I don't know. I would assume that the person he's referring to right now for affordable housing is Todd Dumais, the town planner, because they are working with an affordable housing committee on a plan.
Okay.
But again, this is it. It's kind of, again, I don't know who the point person on this
staff
would be.
lightly. Matt sort of implied that there was staff for this, but really what we were told is that they have an advisory group that's working on affordable housing that'll be due out next year, first quarter. And they're going to be doing some zoning updates for mixed income and supportive housing. No more specifics than what he just shared right there. And that we had recently passed new zoning to allow for ADUs. Okay. That's affordable housing. For clean and renewable energy, is it aligned? Yes, that's aligned. Is it staffed? Yes, you're looking at her. Catherine's here. She is a staff person. Is it fully staffed to everything that Catherine would recommend? Probably not. But, you know, the municipal facilities are certainly have gotten extraordinarily more efficient, and our schools as a result of the work Catherine has done. Catherine really has made a huge impact on this town. So honestly, we should give her, yes, definitely a round of applause for the things she's done. And
but again, here, there are pieces of this which I feel like are not adequately staffed.
Yes.
So like EV charging stations take some coordination between departments, and we're struggling to figure that out. So likewise with a climate action plan, it touches much more than just my world. So there needs to be some broader coordination. But I you know, that's, I'm sure, the case in many towns, not just ours.
Yeah. So we've really had some pretty significant wins within our municipal group, but as you can see, 2 of the bullets are actually, we expect a greenhouse gas inventory and climate action plan soon. We expect to get ARPA funds for EV charging stations. These are things that don't exist, but that they're hoping to do in the next 6 months to a year. Really dependent on funding, right? Then we have the Complete Streets program, according to Matt, that is staffed. I don't know who it's staffed with. I think that is the engineering group. He said there are 10 miles that are expected to be added to the Complete Streets program within West Hartford per year, and that they want to do more sidewalks and bike lanes. And I wrote lands, and that was a mistake. And that we're doing a road diet on New Park Ave. The road diet on Main Street, we're doing some upgrades on New Park Ave, and they're trying to do some Trout Brook Trail improvements. And then there's also a transit-oriented development ordinance, which I didn't get a lot of details on, but this is what he means when he says we've invested in complete streets. As for diversity, equity, and inclusion, that is not staffed, but they did say they are looking to hire an equity officer. And the interpretation here is that we have the Civilian Police Review Board and the DEI training for town staff. So again, we're talking about like these are kind of, you know, basic things, but compared to what he presented to us, right? Like what the town has actually done, it's important. I don't want to discount it. It's just, you know, as you guys will see as we go through this, there will be some opportunities for us to really identify additional opportunities for the town to take action. Questions on that side before we move on to the next 4? Yeah, Rachel.
Sorry, pardon my ignorance. What is an ADU?
It is an accessory dwelling unit. It is essentially the decision that if somebody has land or space in the back of their home, they could create what, you know, you could otherwise call a mother-in-law unit or a granny unit above a garage or something that's attached to your home that is an extra apartment for you. Really, it benefits, truthfully, it's not an equity advancement at all because it really benefits landowners and people who already own homes. So if you don't have one of these properties, you can't add an ADU, but it does help add a little bit of density to a suburban area. And so it has started to become championed in a lot of different suburban communities to change zoning to allow for them. So they did get that through.
Yeah.
Other reactions to these first 4? Again, not trying to be cynical, very proud of the town of what they've done, just giving you some calibration of where we really are.
Hey, Julia.
Hey, Ed.
Hey, sorry I'm late, but
No problem.
So just under the complete streets and
Yep.
the 10 miles of complete streets per year,
Yep.
I'll just more of a comment than anything else. I think it depends on, number one, to what degree the streets are complete, if that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying.
Especially for people that are in active transportation, meaning on bicycles and things like that, without heavy traffic. And
Yep.
also, he mentioned this the other night, the last time we were together, Matt Hart. And they said that they were looking to do buffer lanes, whatever. But I don't get the sense that there's any sort of plan for a connected bicycle lane system.
Very fair
If I
observation.
wanted to get to the center or north of that or one of the shopping districts, it seems to be very piecemeal. So if we can get some alignment on building out a connected system,
Yes.
I think that would be something we should really promote.
Absolutely. And I think as you'll see as we go through here, this is the more realistic reflection of what the town has actually done and invested in up to this point versus kind of the very rosy picture we were presented last week, where again, we have town officials who acknowledge that sustainability is a journey and that they've got a lot more that they could do. It's just that what we have resources to do and funding to do and staff are very different than what that was. So, okay, next slide, just to go through those real fast. The next one he mentioned was arts and culture. I said this wasn't aligned because it wasn't in our top 11. Not that we don't want arts and culture, not that we're not looking for that. Again, remember when I say something's not aligned with us, it's not that we said no to it, or even in communications and marketing. It's not that we said no, it's just that it didn't make our top 11. So we just have to keep that in mind. It's not staffed. He did say that there's a commission on the arts that got restarted this year. Apparently it had been defunct for a couple of years and now it is back. ARPA is the, it's DOE funding. SAG input on ARPA. Yeah, it's DOE funding. I'm not sure what ARPA he's referring to for the arts and culture. Catherine, I'm not sure, but he said that they were seeking ARPA funds for, the American Recovery Plan Act. That's what it is. It's the US government's that giant tranche of money that went out last year to help support COVID. There's a lot of different areas for municipalities to apply for funding. That's what ARPA is in this instance. ARPA E is also where the Department of Energy does a whole bunch of innovative R&D, and DARPA is the Defense Department's version. So sorry, ARPA in my world, energy, sorry, that's where my head went. Okay, so Commission on the Arts just got restarted. They are starting by doing small projects around town. You may have noticed there's an influx of, painted walkways and art, murals and things that have been going into the town. So I think people have been appreciative of that. So they are looking for additional funds to support more artists. And he said specifically, hey, I'd love your guys' input on this. So very interesting. Again, it wasn't our top 11, but maybe it's something we can flag as part of our report. Or maybe we incorporate it as part of how do you beautify a city in terms of all the other facets and ways that we're thinking of bringing forward different ideas to the town. The next one was
just one point on that. So arts and culture is one of the main categories in the Sustainable Connecticut program. I know it wasn't on this group's top list. There was also, in case people missed it, we can send around the link. There was a recent article in WeHa on the initial thoughts on what West Hartford's $37 million in ARPA funding was going towards. And it listed some specific projects and some general categories as well. So it might be interesting for the group to take a look at that and see where the town is planning to spend that $37 million.
Could you share that with us, Catherine?
Yeah, I mean, it was an article. Yeah.
Can you share the article with us? That'd be very helpful.
Yes, I will.
Great. Thank you for that.
I was hoping to see more go into schools ventilation and HVAC. I'll just say that.
Okay.
None of our facilities projects, I don't think are going to make that list.
Okay. Well, we will take a look at that, and I think that will be really illustrative of a good piece of research for the next group that breaks it down. Next,
sorry, Julia, I just wanted to, if there's not another person or whatever, I am a performing artist and I have a ton of experience in education. And if we need someone to do something about that, about the SAG input, I would be happy to talk about that. Or
Super. Well, I think that would, if you want to take that on, by all means. And I think Catherine, when Catherine shares the article, we'll get an idea of what really is he talking about. Okay, I'm just going to continue through these and then we'll do a pause and reaction to this slide as well. So then he, of course, mentioned stormwater and drainage. This is something that's high on their list, in part because of recent weather events, not because it was high on their list 2 years ago or even last year when they were talking and thinking about priorities. This has only recently become more important due to, again, recent climate situations with flooding. So it's not staffed, although he did say there is an engineering staff person who does obviously work with stormwater and drainage, but there's no one specifically tasked with green infrastructure or tasked with like there's no one point person. There's a few people who kind of work on this, of course, because we do have a working water system here in West Hartford, but just so you know. So they are planning a 20 to 30 year infrastructure plan. I don't know if it's a 20-year or a 30-year plan, but apparently they're in discussion. He did say he hopes green infrastructure will be included, but that does not mean that it's already a done deal. And that they plan to add a local stormwater utility, and additional staff engineering. And by the way, a local stormwater utility, there was a change in the Connecticut law that allows the local municipalities to create their own stormwater utilities, which means that those utilities can actually charge and raise funds specifically for our town. So it's basically a new agency, a new department within the town. So they're going to be looking for funding and looking for additional guidance. And it would be really fantastic if that group had a little bit of understanding of sustainability and some green infrastructure practices. So the next one is the tree canopy. He said that we have a dedicated urban forestry staff, and he really wants to work with nonprofits or citizens groups to implement a tree replacement program. He shared that there are a lot of very old trees in West Hartford, many over 100 years old, some of which are getting to the point where they are breaking and they are getting brittle and they do need some replacement or they need some work. And he said that they have, and he admitted they have a very limited budget for this. And so he knows the issue is much bigger than the funds, and that if the town is really interested in tree canopy work, he'd love to hear more about that.
Is that through Westmore Park?
He did not specify
I don't know who or is that in the grounds department?
The urban forestry staff, you mean?
Yeah.
He just generally said, we have people who work on trees, and I upgraded them to urban forestry people.
I think we have grounds guys.
Okay. Well, we have people who he said are
But I
dedicated
could
to doing
be
trees.
wrong. The tree canopy, study idea lives within leisure services with Helen Rubino Turco and Westmore Park, and the Friends of Parks Associations, but also they work very closely with our grounds department.
So
And
I would say use
I
this
know
check
that-
very loosely.
I wasn't familiar with the term urban forestry staff within the context of the town. So it makes more sense to me that that was your ad. Okay.
Yeah. And I know I'd spoken with John Phillips like within the last couple of years, and I know years ago we did have an arborist on staff, and we don't.
Well, he said there still is one, so maybe there's not. In the meantime, staffed, again, I would take this sort of loosely. According to Matt, if we have staff, I don't know whether the staff are dedicated to this particular topic or not. I think that there's room to grow in the tree canopy conversation.
Oh, yeah, I think
so
he says that he has staff that if you look on the website, if you asking questions about arborist related interests in town, it's John Phillips that it directs you to. So to Kim's point, I don't think there's a dedicated arborist.
Okay. Well, again, good to know. And this may also reflect that he was listening to us, because I'm not sure if this really is a town priority then, but he did say tree canopy. So there we go. The last one he said was waste management, which this one, again, we have a staff member, Catherine Bruns, she's on the screen right now, who just was recently actually brought on to staff. So I do think this is definitely a town priority. They do want to improve their recycling rates. Our recycling specialist is right here on the phone with us here. He really went back to pay as you throw. He really wants residential support for this. And apparently they're really looking to learn more about how they can make pay as you throw happen. I don't know how we feel about this. in my opinion, pay as you throw does not necessarily have to show up in our recommendations when it comes back around to waste management. A lot of the things we discussed was more about food scraps and composting and some other programs that were not necessarily tied to pay as you throw. But whoever takes this on gets the ability to kind of determine what our next short-term and long-term plan should be. And that's what I will say about that. Is I guess what I'm trying to point out is these priorities that were being shared, we don't have to take everything Matt has said as the highlighted plans and make them our own. But if we feel that those are the things that align with what we meant when we were talking about our vision, then by all means, feel free to incorporate them.
But Julia,
these four.
Julia,
yeah,
I just listened to an hour-long thing about pay as you throw, and it was on Connecticut Public Radio, and they said specifically that other towns in other parts of the country who have had the most success with pay as you throw implementation did it in concert with the food waste piece of it, because people are less grumpy to make that switch to pay as you throw if the town is providing a way for them to throw less. And so I think those two are linked, is what they were sharing is so I think something to think about.
Absolutely. I just want you to know that everything I've heard about the way we handled the pay as you throw program before, it was a full jumbled mess. And I think it creates a lot of heartburn and anxiety for people in the town, even if it was a fully new attempt. I don't think you could call it pay as you throw. I think you have to think of something completely different. I think it creates panic. And so I just want you to know it's really not, it was not seen very favorably the last time.
I was at that meeting. It was crazy.
And that's
well, there were
we get to the mindset shift that's needed in our town. That
it goes to the mind shift, Kim. Yes, exactly. It's definitely.
I think the terminology that we can use is unit-based pricing. I think that's one that's the most generic, and it is true that it goes hand in hand with food scrap recycling. I would urge everyone on this call today to write town council members and write to Matt and write to Sherry Cantor and say this is something you're in support of, because I think there's the political element of this is we can't underestimate that. And I think that they just don't hear about it. And I plan to speak to town council about the benefits of it, because I'm urging our town to apply for a grant to have a pilot. We did the pilot program 5 years ago, but this would be a different kind of a pilot program that targets 1,000 randomly selected residents. So it's not people who volunteer for it, because people who volunteer for it obviously want it. So if you take a random neighborhood of 1,000 people and do the side-by-side food scrap recycling and the unit-based pricing together, you know, I'm really urging us to apply for that grant. And I'm just hoping more and more. I tell every resident who wants composting, please write town council. Let them know that you want this program.
Fantastic. And I'm seeing a lot of support for you in the comments here, especially from Kim and from a few others. My observation again is just that the term pay as you throw seems to create all kinds of really deep frustration, and you're not going to get very far if we try to reinstate that program. So a unit-based pricing might be the way. And again, whoever takes that on is certainly going to be in charge of working with you to try to figure out what the best pathway forward
is. I'll encourage Matt to use the language unit-based pricing, because I think people
from here on forward, I think you should certainly start calling it unit-based pricing. Okay, other questions, reactions to these priorities versus the ones we heard the other night? They're not completely different. They're just a little bit more in depth. Yes, Ed's made a really great point about behavioral economics for language use. Okay, so just go forward a couple of slides if you don't mind, Catherine. Back to the timetable. Okay, so what we didn't go over before, I wanted to make sure we hit on what Matt had shared. So the timetable here would be that we would review the notes from Matt Hart, which we're doing right now, and then we're going to divide into those 11 subgroups, which are really going to end up being 12, because we're going to have one that's really dedicated to thinking about the current versus the future version of what this commission really looks like. Then at our next SAG meeting, by Kim, at our next SAG meeting, we're going to present those draft slides. So you're going to get into working groups. You're going to start doing some stuff. You're going to start researching. You're going to pitch what your one slide will be. And by the way, it was highly recommended that we just do a presentation. So I would try to keep us to a tight deck of like maybe 30 slides total of the 11, just that we could do some preface up front of what did we do, how did we get to where we are, recap that, and then give a little bit of extra context. But really, every subgroup is probably going to get one maybe 2 slides. Like I really wouldn't go over that. Think about that, conciseness if you possibly can. And we'll present draft slides out to one another during the next meeting on November 3rd, which will give you about 3 weeks to kind of start to, work with your teams. And then, we had an observation, like we should do another dry run, a final, like a draft/final before we present to the town council. And we'll get some final feedback from our team. So we'll have 2 presentations to our team, just kind of see where we're going. Give us really like a total of 2 months to get all this together. And then in January, after the election and the town councils had their chance to have their first meeting, we will shoot to be on, we'll shoot to present it to town council. Then we'll get some feedback and make sure that we get some buy-in from them to move forward with the next iteration. Are you guys okay with that timeline? And then that'll wrap us up around January. And then it'll move to, by the way, if we do this right, we'll pitch something that's longer that you guys get to really dig deeper and we get to really, explore what is the mission and vision and what specifically should the town do and what is our sustainability plan? Like that's another thing that's been requested that, the next group does an actual sustainability plan for the town. So like there's all those action steps that get to be taken in the next iteration. But for this, we're doing the gap analysis. I'm going to close the chapter, make it really clear, and it's going to be a really nice step to get buy-in from town council before we get too far down a path where we lose them. How are we feeling about this? I saw a yes. I saw another yes. I'm seeing some blank stares. I see a thumbs up. I'm seeing a lot of empty screens, which is fine. No big deal. 2 thumbs up, 2 more thumbs up. Great, great, great. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please, Catherine? All right, so next. All right, so here is our pitch. Wait, go back to the slide before. Here is our pitch for the mission and vision. Again, we had a really great conversation the last time, and it was brought up by many of you and wonderful points. This is the kind of work that takes some groups months to do and sometimes even a good solid year. Like it is really difficult to get a solid mission vision. This is the kind of thing where you really do get into the weeds. So rather than go down this path, we will present this whole slide and any other additional vision things. We'll summarize it up into like 1, maybe 2 slides and tell the town council, this is how far we got. We had this calibration conversation. This is the general mission vision. This is how we got to these 11, just so you guys know a general sense of where we are. And the group that comes after us, they'll be responsible for really digging in and finding a mission and vision specifically for whatever future iteration of commission or whatever. And that would be much more appropriate for that group to take on, really own, because our group is pretty much doing that exercise to make sure, again, we were all calibrated. And these visions are so lovely. And we didn't want to, we really didn't want to eliminate people's ideas. So are you guys okay with us presenting all of them in that perspective? Kind of keep them and we show them around. Great. Okay, I'm seeing positives, thumbs ups. Yay, more thumbs up. Great. Okay, so next slide. So then we had a similar conversation about, we tried for organizational sake to try to sum these down to 6 groups. And as we went through that exercise, it became very clear that, again, that felt like we were reinventing the wheel in some ways. And that instead, we should really just divide into these 11 groups. And instead of making people feel like they have to be in one group or another group, you guys can pick, volunteer for 2 or 3 if you want to be in more than one. Just, keep in mind your own bandwidth. And we're gonna divide into 11 groups, and again, a 12th group, because the 12th group will specifically be about who wants to think about the future of the commission, pitch that slide together. But we're gonna pretty much break this up, and everyone's gonna have to put together 1 or 2 slides. So some of these do have really, really, really obvious and natural overlap. So maybe if you want to be, for instance, in the Complete Streets program, you also want to be in the Improved Public Transportation program, but those are 2 very large umbrellas. So if those are, if those will work for you and you want to be in both, volunteer for both. If you only want to be in one, only volunteer for one. What we want to do by the end of today, before we break into the groups, is we want to take 1 or 2 volunteers to be the lead person. And that lead person, by the way, on that particular focus area, that person's going to be mostly responsible for setting up the meeting, keeping track of who volunteered for their group, and then making sure you own the single slide. And we'll create a master slide deck, but you'll own your slide. Does that make sense? Like, you'll be the final editor, you'll be the you'll work with us as a group. Are you guys cool with everybody kind of dividing and conquering on who is a leader on one of these? You can be a leader on two, but I think we should just try to let people raise their hands and take it on. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up. So again, this is what we came up with as a group when we were brainstorming the other day. Okay, so the next slide, Catherine, if you don't mind going through. So these I kept just so it was obvious which sustainable CT category they aligned with. The priority alignment on the right, we just didn't have time to eliminate them. Don't worry so much about that. Just know that we kept these in here for posterity's sake, but with these next 3 slides are the slides we had the last time. So again, for continuity. I don't have to come back to that. I just want to see what else we have in here. And then break into teams. Okay, perfect. So before we break into teams, like I said, we need to go back to that one slide just so we have all 11 in front of us. And we just need people to take responsibility for, we're going to need a volunteer for number 1. Who wants to be the leader and champion for Complete Streets program? And again, you're going to be responsible for setting up your meeting, making sure you know who's on your team and the slide itself. But the folks you work with you're going to create the slide together. You're going to create your document together.
I would be happy to join that group either as.
All right, Johannes, I'm throwing you in as the leader for that one. Does anyone else want to be that leader for number 1?
I can join in if nobody else wants to step forward with Johannes.
Well, it could just be 1 leader, it could be 2, but I guess, Ed, do you want to be a co-chair with Johannes, or do you want to take on a different one?
That's fine. If Johannes is the leader, that's fine. I thought you were saying you wanted a co-leader, but
I just wanted to see if anybody else wanted to do it, and Johannes, I don't know if you wanted a co-leader or not.
Julia, is this where we're also jumping in as people in the group, or no?
No, we're going to do the leaders first. And
oh, okay. I thought we were forming the groups themselves. I'm sorry.
Well, do you guys want to do that instead? Do you want to say Johannes is the lead and then everyone who wants to be on one?
Hey, Julia, this is Jay. Can I suggest that we just break into groups and let the groups determine their leaders?
You can certainly do that. I just was trying to figure out how you would know who you're breaking, like who's going to organize that, because we do need to know. All right, that's fine. Whoever wants to be on, that's a great suggestion, Jay. Whoever wants to be on group 1, group 1, I'm going to ask that you put your name in the chat, and we're going to do a shout out like this. Group 1, which is Complete Streets. This is just so we have a record of it too. So if you want to be on the Complete Streets slide group, if you want to do the research on that particular program, please add your name now into the chat, or shout your name out if you can't chat.
So we have Johannes, Ed, and Jay. Anyone else we're missing?
Okay. To me. Okay. By the way, I will wait to volunteer until the very end. I'll fill in whatever gaps we have. So I'm not volunteering for anything right now. So number 2, invest in incentivized clean and 100% renewable energy programs. Who wants to do that one? Yes, you can absolutely be in more than one group, and we will send this out to everybody who wasn't able to make it here today, because sometimes these things just don't work. So that's okay. We'll make a shout out to the group and ask which group you want to join. Okay, Chris wants to be invested in incentivized clean and 100% renewable energy programs. Anyone else want to join Chris?
Oh, I do.
Who's I do?
Catherine.
Catherine. Okay.
Sorry, someone has a lovely child practicing the piano, which I totally support. Okay.
Thank you. No problem, Ed. Anyone else want to join number 2, invest in clean and 100% renewable energy programs? Okay, super. Support an urban forestry and landscaping initiative, number 3.
Me.
Me is? Who's me?
Not lead it if that's okay.
No, that's fine. Who is me?
Rachel.
Rachel.
Oh, Rachel.
Yeah, I'm interested in that one as well.
And who is that? I'm sorry.
John.
Yep, John.
John.
And I'm going to assign
I think Kathy wants to be in that one too.
Kathy. And I know Ted Gerner wants to be in that one.
Ted, number 3. Great. All right. Anyone else want to do urban forestry last call? And by all means, if you want to change later, whatever, it's fine. Okay. Improve public transportation, offer better commuting options. That connects number 1. Who wants to be the lead on that one? Public transportation and or join it. You don't have to lead it. Who wants to be part of that group? Public transportation. Okay, that might be
About how many of our group are we missing tonight? It seems like you're
about half of
smaller
us.
than
It
you.
looks like we have 26
Yeah.
and there's about 15 tonight, so it's okay if we don't fill everyone. But I will. Anywhere you see my name is something I'm just trying to fill a gap. So we'll send it around to the whole group and make sure everyone gets to fill it in later. Okay. Prevent homelessness. Provide wraparound services for the unhoused. Support affordable housing.
I'll join but not lead. This is Rachel.
Rachel, I think I spelled your name wrong before, and I apologize for that. I'm typing too fast.
No problem.
And then we have another Catherine. Or is it Kathleen? I don't remember. What is this one? Our champion from one of the high schools.
I think that was Grace.
Oh, was it Grace? All right. I'm wrong. I apologize. Okay. Invest in anti-racism programs, initiatives, and efforts. I will definitely put myself on that one. Oopsies. Just kidding, Julia. Number 6. Okay. Anyone else? Last calls for that one. Great, thank you, Chris. All right, develop a food waste reduction compost program. Who wants to be on this one?
Obviously, that falls into my category too, so I'll participate or help out however that works.
Same with me. This
Anna
is Rachel.
Borkowski. Oh, sorry.
I'm fired up about compost.
Jay. Preeti.
I think that's how you and I first met.
Yes,
I
it
think
is.
Catherine likes that one. Vanessa.
Catherine, it's about time we close that circle.
Yes, it is.
Get it going, you guys. Anyone else for food waste reduction compost programs? All right, addressing the gap in healthy food. I'm sorry, did I just interrupt?
Yeah, I just wanted to interrupt. In the chat, I suggested that we wrap number 4 and number 1 into one group whose goal is to reduce vehicle miles traveled and to reduce transportation emissions. And I said, if it's okay with Johannes, I would make that suggestion. Johannes says it's okay. So if anybody else agrees with that, I would suggest that we wrap 4 and 1 together.
I think it's totally fine for you to have very similar objectives. However, the Complete Streets program is not necessarily about vehicle miles traveled. So I would make sure that you don't forget that the Complete Streets program has a lot of other elements in it that don't have anything to do with climate. That do like walkable streets, accessible neighborhoods, that sort of thing. Not knocking it. If you guys want to combine, by all means, but just throwing it out there. Please don't just make it about vehicle miles.
I think it's a transportation grouping, right?
Yes. very much so, but it has the Complete Streets program is also about creating walkable streets that are inviting and spaces that are welcoming, which includes landscaping for, forestry, urban forestry decision. There's just a couple of other things to it.
Right,
All
but
of which help
it
climate.
does include public transport and really
Yes.
optimizing public transport. So,
Yes, it
I mean, I do see quite a bit of overlap between the two, which is why I agreed initially with Jay's
I
proposal.
agree with what you guys want to do. I'm just saying, please don't make it just vehicle miles traveled.
Right, that makes sense,
That's
Julie.
all.
You're right about that.
Yeah. Put vehicle miles traveled in there for sure, but that's not going to help us completely get to the Complete Streets program, but fantastic.
Right.
Okay. Great idea, Jay. Thank you for flagging that. I suggest those two groups go off and conquer. Feel free.
With the groups combined, do we need more people to volunteer on either one of, I should say, on the combined committee?
I think what we're going to do is we're going to send an email around at the very end, because that's why I wanted you guys putting your names in chat, so we can actually collectively create like a sheets page that says like this person's here, here, and here. And then over the next week, for the fact that people are not here, let other people fill their names in, and we'll see where we land. And you guys can determine if you need more folks, then you can email everybody and say, hey, we need more volunteers. Does that work? Because I think you actually do have a decent amount of volunteers, but maybe you don't. I don't know.
I think it also might help us too, who maybe don't have a particular desire to be on any one particular one, but look and see which ones need more help.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we wait until the end and see where that is.
Sounds good. Okay, we left off at address gap in healthy food programs, offer more fresh food, farmer market programs. So this is also a healthy food system, sustainable food systems. Do we have any takers for that one? And this, I believe, is more going to be focused, instead of food waste reduction and compost, this is more on how do we bring more relationships with the local farmers markets and make sure that there's more accessible fresh food, and for all kinds of residents in schools, in
Rachel volunteered for that.
okay, thank you, Rachel.
I can join that one as well.
Henry?
Is that you?
No, John Humphrey.
Yep.
Oh, John Humphrey. Sorry.
Yep.
You sounded like Henry.
Yeah, you did for like a second. I saw your name, so it's all good.
And I'm happy to lead that one.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Rachel.
And I think that's a big interest of Luciana as well.
Oh yes. We'll assign her. Hope she doesn't mind. Okay, number 9, passing the climate emergency resolution and incorporating climate change into planning. I'm guessing, Henry, you want to be on this one?
Yeah, I volunteered to lead if nobody else is interested.
Fantastic.
I'm interested. Not in leading per se, but in joining.
Awesome, Johannes.
I'm also interested in joining. Fantastic. Also, by the way, I did not put this in here, but Matt Hart has mentioned several times he expects the climate emergency resolution to pass, and he's anticipating that will happen. So that's good.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yes. So that is excellent news. Okay, we're almost done here.
That's Henry's work.
That is a lot of Henry's work, and all the students who have worked with him and the passionate stories they have told. So thank you to you guys.
It's like a continuum. It's like Julia started it, I think, originally, and then we picked it up, and then Catherine and Bernie, like everybody's been involved in it. Matt.
Yeah, if enough squeaky wheels are yelling at the council, I guess they take things up. Okay, so we're almost done here. Invest in attracting new businesses that support the circular economy. Ed, does anyone else have this problem? Ed, what are you referring to? Ed? Your kids hanging around?
His kids are hanging around.
Oh, I don't have kids. Not sure. Any parents on the phone?
wasn't the circular economy, wasn't that something Mary was really interested in?
Certainly, it's also my day job, so I mean, I certainly can do stuff.
I can join that one too.
I'm not going to end up on all of these, but who was that? I can join that one too. Was that John or Henry?
John.
John. John, I think this was partly your brainchild when we were brainstorming too.
It was.
Invest in accessible energy efficiency programs. Last one, 10B. 10B EE.
I'll be on it.
Okay.
I mean, we can.
Yeah, it's really very connected to the
Yeah, we can wrap.
So it's the flip sides of the coin.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I think you're going to find that there's a lot of overlap between some of these, which is why Preeti and I started the exercise of trying to collapse them. But you know what? We don't want to collapse them. We're just going to keep them how they are. So let everybody dabble. All right. So next slide, please. We'll go a couple forward. So that's it. I mean, we've basically broken out into our 11 groups. We will have follow-up calls. It was a great suggestion to let you guys decide who's going to take the lead, who will be the owner, but we will circulate the list. So don't worry, for the next couple of days, if you're not exactly where you think you're going to be, and there are a lot of people missing from tonight's call, we're going to give everyone an opportunity to add themselves to one of these groups. And so I wouldn't get going on your meetings until at least just give us through the weekend, maybe even next week. Just like let people think about it, settle for about a week, and we'll take this list, we'll download the chat and make sure we've got a good coverage of who's decided to go where. I think I over volunteered, so I'm certainly going to pull myself off a few things, but that's okay. Calibrate yourselves, take a look at the list after it all shakes out, and then we'll hopefully end up with we'll do 10 and 11. Yeah, Rachel, that's a good idea. 10 and 11 will work. So we will circulate that. You guys will take one more look at the list, and then you can go forth and conquer. We would encourage you, after we sort of solidify the list, that everybody we'll put like a bold next to either the person who volunteered, or if you guys want to vote on who your lead is, that's fine. We'll just vote, put it in the Excel or sheets that will circulate, something to that effect, and we'll make it clear who's the leader. So who do you contact to make sure that you're on the list for the meeting, and that is how that'll go. And then for the next 7 weeks,
as the town liaison, I just feel compelled to jump in here and remind people that at our very first or second Sustainable Advisory Group meeting, we did have a slide, and I talked to you guys a little bit about the Freedom of Information Act requirements for public meetings and public groups. So we did broach this subject with our legal counsel for the town, because the nature of this group's work is that we are going to be having these kind of breakout sessions. So they just wanted to be clear that those breakout groups must, and this is what we intended to do anyway, but those breakout groups must report kind of on their discussion and their facts. And since we're making presentation slides, that should be pretty easy, but whatever happens in the groups must be reported. Whatever happens in the breakout groups must be reported back to the main group at some point in a public forum. Thanks.
Okay, great. So then we'll send a reminder. Please take at least a few bulleted notes so that we can report on what you did. Okay, sounds good. Guys, we're making progress. This is going so well. All right. So
so Julia, this is Jay again. If we make a sheets that's editable by everybody in the group, then people who aren't here tonight could also add themselves to groups without having to go through channels. And then maybe, maybe the Excel sheet that exists that's editable and you can sort of move yourself around to sort of meet needs could be the basis from which you guys make a final document.
That is exactly what we were going to do, and the other document is a sheets. So we've been using everything on Google Docs. So you are, great minds think alike, Jay. You're doing great. Yeah, that's exactly what we were going to do. Thank you for that suggestion and the reminder. Absolutely. We had created one a couple weeks ago when we were coming up with the different categories. So we'll just take the 11 and build off of that. Thank you. All right, next slide. Might actually end early tonight. All right, so we're into this roundtable thing, which is where we share announcements, or Q&A or comments, reactions.
Oh, let's just do next steps first, and then we'll come back to any group announcements.
Okay.
Because I just wanted, we had that timeline up. We did last time talk about our next meeting being November 3rd. Did you guys want to set the December meeting for the 1st, for the 8th? We originally had 2 meetings on November 24th and 12/15, December 15th, but we decided we would combine those into one, or shall we hold that for next time?
I think that the 3rd is going to work because of the cadence we had established before, and then we talked about Thanksgiving and the holidays and trying to avoid that. So I think we should pitch this, but what do you guys think? I'm available these dates, but I'm not the only one that should be, so.
The 1st or the 8th? How are people feeling for December?
Well, December the 1st is not too far after the 3rd. I mean, I think that the time between November 3rd and December 1st is about the right amount of time. And I think we'll start to lose more people as we get closer to Christmas.
Okay.
So I would go for the 1st.
Yeah, the 8th would fall right in the middle of finals for me, so I would definitely appreciate the 1st if that works for the group.
Either is okay, either is fine. I see in the chat.
I'm going to put
someone preferred the 8th. Greedy prefers the 8th. Rachel's flexible.
Just see.
I can do either. I think maybe the 1st is.
I think the 1st is winning out. So let's go with the 1st. Okay. And then one thing that I think we ran out of time last time.
Yes.
I just wanted to mention again is, and this is more from my information. Sometimes I've been sending you guys announcements or notifications through the listserv. I don't want to, I want to use that appropriately. I don't want to clog your email boxes with things that you're not interested in or things you don't think are appropriate. So I've been holding back a little bit because I do see a lot of things come across my desk that I feel like I want to share. So I just want to hear from you. I've been trying to post, I try to use Sustainable West Hartford Facebook page, and I'd like to talk to Mary, who's been talking about, a group outside the town. Maybe that is a Facebook page or a group that could be taken over outside the town. But I've been trying to post events and things of interest there. And then just use the listserv kind of more parsimoniously. So
I feel the same way as you, Catherine. I come across things that I want to share, but then I think, people have a lot coming in through their emails and, I'm not sure. So I put it all on the Sustainable West Hartford.
So I guess I just want a sense from you guys. Are you comfortable with the amount of information you're getting right now, or would you like more information? Do you feel like you're missing things and you'd like to hear more about what's going on?
Don't hold back.
Oh, don't hold back. Okay.
I appreciate the heads up on the activities, even though I might not be able to make them, especially on the weekends because we're so busy with the schedules. But the information is really great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the same way. I think the more the merrier.
Okay.
I love hearing about this stuff.
Okay, then Catherine and I both might, we want to be respectful. So we might send you guys a little bit more information. And then if it ever becomes too much, feel free as individuals to reply back. We can dial it back a little bit.
I think if you would be open to it, use the subject judiciously to explain this is an announcement. Maybe put an announcement or something in brackets or something like that, so it's very clear that this is not something that's like pertaining to SAG, but it's something that people can take a look at if they want.
Okay, that sounds good.
Great idea. And
Okay.
how do people feel about, so I guess, and then my other question is, that's coming from the town, from Catherine and me, how do people feel about getting things from other SAG members?
Same.
Because you guys know about a lot more stuff than either Catherine or I do too, about what's going on in your own town.
I feel the same way. The more the merrier. I mean, if there's people that don't want to be on it, potentially we can create a second, email list for people that are interested in sustainability related content.
Okay, let's try it again and see how it goes. We can always discuss it again at the next meeting and see how people are feeling about it too. Great.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the round table and see if anyone has anything.
Open the floor.
Or nobody's watching on YouTube, but
To that end, I have something to share that's time sensitive.
Great.
So I just learned something today on a webinar that I was on. So there's a company called Rubicon, and they have something called Trick or Trash, and they're giving free boxes to schools, businesses, and businesses, and then individuals. You have to pay for the box, but it's to set up a box to have recycling of candy wrappers, and they will give you the free box if you ask for it by October 15th. So I actually quickly went in, and I'm not a business, but I put Public Works in as a business. So I'm going to have a box sent to Public Works, and I'll collect candy wrappers. But the statistics on the amount of candy wrappers was, I'm trying to find it right here, shocking. And I just thought it was a great way for anyone with kids in schools to get a box to collect candy wrappers after Halloween.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so I can share that link with the group. But you have to be active to, the next 2 days to get the box for free.
Catherine, are the candy wrappers recyclable? Is that what?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, they'll collect them to recycle them.
To recycle them. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking again for the statistic on how many pounds worth of candy wrappers are produced every Halloween.
They're
and I'll do
a candy wrapper mountain.
What?
Just joking. I said they're not recycling them. They're creating a candy wrapper mountain instead.
Yeah, I know. So I'll do a greener Halloween and all that sort of thing. But candy wrappers are inevitable. I produce them myself, I will admit. So anyway, this is a way for kids to get involved, and anyone with kids in schools, or I know Henri, that's what I was going to tell you about. It seems like a great thing. I'll let you know when I get the box. But
Jay was hoping to get that forwarded too. So just forward it to the whole group. I think people would be very interested. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll get that. Let me see if I can copy and paste it.
Chris, do you want to tell people about the EV, or did you already? I forgot.
She didn't.
Oh, I didn't say anything. No, we got involved with the YouTube thing or whatever, but we did have the EV event. It was a library presentation last Thursday. And the main thing I wanted to say is that there was good participation. There were quite a few people signed up. I think there were a total of 36 people who actually came online. And aside from the presenters, I think there were 4 or 5 of us. And I was really encouraged by the amount of interest. I think there are a lot more people are thinking about actively planning for buying an electric vehicle. So that was a big success. And thank you, Catherine, for or I guess you arranged that with the library, right?
Well, and so Maura, who is part of this group and couldn't be here tonight, sometimes she can't attend evening meetings because she's hosting other library events. Chris was a speaker, and Luciana was a speaker as well. They both have EVs, and I just want to, the library is a great place to hold. We talked about education is paramount, and the library does such a great job promoting their events. They have it dialed in, and they have a big listserv and a big newsletter circulation. So for future outreach and education, that's an avenue that everyone should be tapping into, holding workshops. And now they hold the Zoom meetings. It's really easy to set one up. And she created great graphics and announcements for us. So it was really super easy. And it's on Zoom, which is a lot easier than WebEx.
Great. Chris, do you want to talk about the parade?
Oh, the group, I unfortunately wasn't able to be at the parade, which I knew from the beginning because my family went to a wedding in New Hampshire, and I was really sorry to miss it. But I saw pictures and got feedback from Sam Danowski that the reception, the people, the parade watchers really liked it. It looked great, and I really appreciate everyone who participated. And we have that banner, and we're offering it to other groups, particularly within Sierra Club, that just because that's where our information goes. But we're hoping that it catches on. I do think it's an idea whose time has come. I don't know who saw the report today that California has passed legislation phasing out gas-powered lawn and landscaping equipment, and quickly too, in the next few years, as far as new equipment going on the market. So it really is a thing, and we will try to continue to push that. And for the town in their municipal use, which they have already started, but also for residents. So a great start, and I really appreciate everyone who worked on it and participated.
Yeah, and just while we're at it, since there's like 3 or 4 of us that were in the parade, does anyone else want to share their perspective of what the parade, being in the parade, was like?
I was in it with John. I think, and is Matt here? Matt maybe not.
Well, he's not here. Yeah,
he's not on our team, but Rachel.
But we had so much fun, and Matt's dance moves. He raised our game.
I didn't know we had dance moves. I didn't know you. Oh, that's great.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited about that.
Matt was doing like little wiggles down the road. It was very funny.
Yeah, he kind of was doing the lawnmower, and I thought it was a little bit of a mixed message, because the lawnmower dance like implies a combustion engine, but people really responded to it. Everybody knows the lawnmower.
Yes.
And he got all of us doing it too.
It was so fun. It was so fun, and I loved my kids marched with us, and made me think like we could totally get more kids involved here. And I think that people love seeing kids being a part of this, and it's great education for my own kids. And I thought it was super fun. I was super shy to do it, and then it was so fun.
Good.
That's great.
Yeah, sorry, Rachel, I forgot. Yeah, your kids, they raised our art game because they made like flyers for us, right before the.
And they got smiles on the sides of the road for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's a phenomenal idea. So we did march in the Park Road Parade back in 2013 for Solarize West Hartford, and we all dressed in yellow with a big banner too. And I brought my daughter, who's now in 7th grade, but she was like 5. And the people love the kids. Like, she had the flyers too, and they were like taking them from her. Yeah, it's super fun. We have pictures of that as well.
Yeah, I tried to get my team of high schoolers to walk with us, but I think they get to that like
a little too.
Rachel's kids are like the perfect age for that, but they were a little sensitive to be, I guess, seen whooping it up in a parade style way. But yeah, we should definitely try to. Does Memorial Day allow that? I know Park Road Parade is really open and nice. Does the Memorial Day Parade also allow just any town group that wants to enter?
I have no idea.
Okay. It'd be fun to reprise,
So for some of you guys who were, I know John organized an event too, and for some of you guys who said you want to do things, I know you were talking more about, or maybe you were talking more about doing things with the town on policy and project initiatives, but we can also, as a group, you can organize additional events and things like that. We do have Celebrate West Hartford in the summer as well, and typically the Clean Energy Commission rents a booth for that, but I'm sure they'd be open to having other partners share the booth.
It just reminded me, Jay, you had a bike event, right? How did that go?
Hi, thanks for asking. You know, we had I had two events actually. We had a ride to we had a ride to Nightfall on Saturday, and that was well attended. We had 15 people join us riding out to Nightfall. It was a Nightfall ride-in, and then we had 6 people join us for the Bike West Hartford mobile meeting on Sunday. So great energy. I would have loved to have seen more people. It was marathon day, and you know the weather wasn't great, so I don't know. Maybe we had a little bit. You know, there were a few less people than I hoped for, but you got to start somewhere. And we're going to continue to do fun rides in the future. And one of the things I talk to people about that I want to share with you guys is I have this initiative that is something I'm circulating right now, where I'm interested in finding people who want to support a car-free experience on LaSalle Road in town center. So,
oh my God, do it.
Yeah, right now the town is
Based, right?
yeah, right now the town is considering using a portion of the $37 million of American Rescue Plan monies to improve sidewalks and tree wells and a couple other things on LaSalle Road between Arapahoe and Farmington. And I'm suggesting that we actually just make LaSalle Road, which by the way is named after the car, the LaSalle car, which was the favorite car of Alan Griswold, a West Hartford developer. I want to make it so that it's just open to deliveries and emergency vehicles, and we take out all the angled parking and create a space for farmers markets, people-centered activities like performance space, fountains, open air vendors, and I think it would, you know, steer new foot traffic to the area. I don't think we really need to drive down LaSalle Road. It would really improve a lot of things for the restaurants. There's a couple of businesses that are against it because they want their elderly customers to park in front of their stores, but I think we can work around that. So if you would like to help me support the West Hartford Marketplace, a car-free LaSalle from Arapahoe to Farmington, please get in touch with me. I'm going to try and motivate people to contact the town council as this is considered. So thanks for the time to share that.
Super. And you just reminded me in terms of contacting the town, the other reason it was timely for the noise pollution conversation is because the town is still accepting comments. The Commission on Energy and Conservation is currently accepting comments on noise pollution within the town. So if you do have any comments, send them to Matt Masunis, and he is going to usher those to the town as well. I wrote 6 paragraphs. And I can send that around if anyone needs a template to start from, but mine was a little bit more of a rambling mess and had less background. And I pinned Jay to the start because I was trying to get you to show us your map one more time in large because it was really hard to see.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot better. Yes. Very cool. Yes.
Yeah. If you're interested, I'll email you your own personal color copy.
I think you gave me one during the center days, so I have one of these. But you should send it to the rest of the group. So absolutely make a copy and get it around to us. Okay.
And Jay, so I just want to flag for you right now that in the article I just put in the chat, which is the how West Hartford plans to use its $37 million. They want to turn the alleyway between LaSalle Road and South Main Street into a road to increase access to the town center garage.
Yes.
So they're trying to create more roads. So I just flag that for you guys. I put the link to that, how West Hartford plans to use its ARP funds.
You know, this is precisely what we need, more impervious pavement, right? I mean, see what Matt thinks of this.
Yeah, Catherine, I met with Kristen Gorski on Tuesday this week, and I had a really good chat with her about this proposal that I have and many other things, and got a good reading from her on what they're talking about and what they might move forward with. And I think that there is a way. They're thinking about good things. I think Matt and Kristen are thinking about good things when it comes to the town center and other business hubs in the city. So if anybody wants to talk in detail about that, I'd love to share at another time, you know, offline.
Cool.
I do know, Jay, that I talked with a woman who's planning on starting a second farmer's market in the Blueback area. I don't know if you are aware of that.
No, I did not
Yeah.
know, Catherine.
Because
No.
people are upset with sort of the lackluster, low turnout at the one on LaSalle. So it seems to me they should combine forces and have one really great farmers market.
Yeah, Catherine Bruns, there's a really interesting dynamic right now with West Hartford Town Center, which is that Robin Rifkin is the manager of the Blueback Square property still, but that changed hands over the summer. And there is some discussion right now about that I'm also supporting about how we can bring Town Center and Blueback Square into a more cohesive and non-competitive world, because I think it would support non-motorized access if we could work together to make those two areas a little bit more cooperative and a little bit less competitive. And I think this Memorial Road route that Catherine Devaney mentioned is one of the keys. So I think there's a lot of stuff at play that's really interesting, and it could go in our way, in a very positive way, in the best of possible worlds, with people being engaged. So thanks for
so the road's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah, it could be a really good thing, because it could be could have a heavy focus on non-motorized accessibility between Blueback Square and Town Center.
All right, any other announcements?
Yes, I don't know if people have seen my postings that we are going to do another backyard composting sort of event. You can get discounted backyard composters and rain barrels. If you've seen it, if you can share it.
Rain barrels. That's what I
Catherine,
want.
this sounds amazing. Jay, wasn't it you who, in one of our little breakout groups, says that it's actually still illegal to compost on your private property in West Hartford?
Yeah, it actually is on the books. It says that that you can compost in your backyard, but it's subject to the discretion of the health department director, who is the person who's actually the West Hartford and the Bloomfield health director. And right now there isn't a person, so it's actually Matt Hart. And there, yeah, it is technically illegal to have a compost pile in your backyard right now. So I think we could revisit that. And I'm going to suggest in group number 7 that that's one of the things we start with.
Great.
Can I mention something?
Of course.
So the climate emergency group is going to be presenting to the Community Planning and Economic Development Commission on the 21st of October, and we're really nervous. You know, the kids, don't have that much experience presenting, and so I'm nervous as well. So if anybody is willing to serve, just to watch us and give us feedback on our presentation, please let me know. You can put it in chat or shout it out. And of course, pending your schedule, if it doesn't work for your schedule, but we'd love to have a few people to do a dry run for.
Depending on when it is, I might be able to help too.
Okay. Thank you, Julie.
We're excited. Yeah.
Hey, can I make a plug?
Yeah, go for it, Ed.
So
Thanks,
so my day job, we work with Connecticut DOT, and for the past year, we've been putting out a podcast now with Rich Andreski, who's the Bureau Chief of Public Transportation, and based on various issues that are related to either equity or the environment, climate change, things like that. But we just our latest episode is on a return to work survey that we distributed back in June. Based on people's perceptions of public transportation and if they're going to ride, going back to the office and things like that. So it's available on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google, wherever you get your podcasts. So I encourage you to give a listen. We have a pretty good response rate to it. So encourage you to give a listen. They're about 25-30 minutes each episode, and Rich really tries to tell the story, depending on what the topic is. So,
sounds
and
great.
also I'd love your feedback on it. If you guys can, if somebody wants to listen and let me know, or has topic suggestions, let me know. Where, my group is sort of does the podcast. It's called Along the Lines. I'll put a link in the chat for it.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to listen. Ed, while you're mentioning that, and Rachel, I know you had your hand up. You're just reminding me, Bernie has been on a mission to try to get more content into the community TV space. So there is already a reservation he has where he is now interviewing people who have all kinds of sustainability topics and they're looking for guests. So if you want to email Bernie with ideas, or if you have podcast topics you've already covered, or other folks on the call, if you guys have things you're passionate about that you want to get onto the community access TV through a jokingly between two ferns, not jokingly between two ferns sort of setup, he is looking for additional interest in that. So feel free to reach out to him for that. So that reminded me, so maybe you'd be the perfect candidate. Rachel, you said you had something?
Just going along with podcasts, if anybody listens to Where We Live on Connecticut Public Radio, their podcasts, in the past 2 weeks, last week they interviewed Doug Tallamy, who's all about homegrown national park, about native planting. It was just an absolutely fantastic listen. So give that a listen. And then from like the week before was a really, really helpful conversation that I referenced earlier about pay as you throw in Connecticut and what that could look like. Apparently 2 towns are already doing it. Anyway, it was just, those are great things just within the last 2 weeks if people are interested in giving a listen.
Super. Nessa, Dan, John, anyone else have anything else they want to throw out? Catherine.
Sorry, can I just say one more quick thing?
Oh,
I would love, going forward, I would love to have Doug Tallamy speak to our sustainability group, or any of you all, people even within the group who have expertise. I would love to see that become part of what this looks like in the future, is like guest speakers educating us. And I think, again, the education, I mean, I know it's the choir here sort of, but I love learning about all these things. And I think that would be such a cool component.
Great. That's a good idea. Very interesting.
We instituted a similar thing for a little while. We let it slide in our Clean Energy Commission meetings. We would have part of the meeting dedicated to like a TED talk. Like, so one of the commissioners would give a little presentation on a subject that they were an expert in each meeting.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea to build into the future iteration, is make sure that there's like a guest section, or, even a learning series that's maybe part of it. Okay.
To that end, if anybody ever has ideas, I give talks about recycling. If you ever have a community group or an organization, that you think it would be useful, I have a PowerPoint. It takes about 25 minutes. I get great engagement. Every time I'm out, like at the West Hartford Farmers Market, it's just nonstop people who, they really want to do the right thing, and recycling is confusing. So just let me know if you have ideas.
Thank you, Catherine. We are at 8:27. We are almost exactly on time. We had no more slides. We were just going to say thank you so much for your time and attention and everything. Does anyone have any other parting closing thoughts, immediate urging issues to bring up? Where's Ed? Ed, do you want to do this next time? Or you want me to keep going?
Nah, you're good.
All right. Anyone else?
I'll take the notes though, Catherine. Somebody else is dying to hop in there.
All right, you guys. Well, again, thank you for your continued dedication to this topic, and for your ideas and your commitment and everything. It's really fantastic to work with all of you. Back to our virtual setting, but alas, here we are. And thank you so much. We'll circulate the list of volunteers, double check that your name got where it's supposed to be, and if you want to move it, and we'll get that sheets out to you ASAP, and I guess take the week to think about where you really want to be and belong, and then we're gonna start presenting things to one another come next time. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Julia.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks, Catherine.
Take care. Bye-bye.